there's a very important component to baptism that I think certainly Jesus helped to achieve, and that we saw more as the disciples went out and took the church to the four corners of the world. It's the idea of unity. Unity. What's interesting to realize is that children, of course, and adults have been baptized in this faith for centuries. And of course, in some cases, we have people that have been baptized who they don't share anything in common with others baptized in terms of their language or their culture or many other things. But there is that bond. And what by extension that means is that right now we say that there are roughly 3 billion Catholics in the world. That's a lot of people. That means you and I are tied to one another through that baptism, so that no matter where we come from, we have that unity. I find that amazing. And again, even though I won't ever really get to know all the possibly baptized people, and nor will you, there is that unity. There is that bond. And because we are joined together through this sacrament, and by so much more within our faith, what it means is that we also share a kind of common lens, and that hopefully our lives, our values, our morals, that again, no matter where we live or what culture we are from, that those are tied together, and that in an ideal sense, we're all drawing from the same source of light. That's powerful. But with that in mind, reasonably then we have to kind of step back and maybe go, well, at this present time, the age we're living in, how's that working for us? Especially the unity concept. That indeed, if we are tied to one another through baptism, through other sacraments, to our fundamental belief, how is that going? Well, I can say from my perspective, at least here, right now, in this moment, there's some real problems. There's some big problems. And I can attest to them personally from the perspective of this parish. On any given, we might say, normal weekend, we should be having around 1,200 Latino adults, children, coming to this parish for Mass and to receive the sacraments, to receive religious education. But as many of you all are aware, with all of the ICE activity going on, that's not how it's playing out right now. It's closer to around 200 to 300 people. And what's fascinating within that is that out of 1,200, when we go down to 200 or 300, it is not because there are 1,000 people who are undocumented. No. The documented aren't coming. And why would that be? They're terrified. They're terrified. They're terrified to leave their homes. They're not going to work. Children may or may not be going to school. And as the weeks pass, and that fear and that reality continue to take hold, we're going and are seeing many other effects. They don't have food. They're losing their jobs. They can't pay their rent or their mortgage. And, of course, we know how painful this can be this time of year. They can't pay their utility bill. Now, when we delve into issues like this, it's very easy perhaps for us to say, well, that's a political issue. Well, of course it is. And it is played out very much within the political framework that we have, and really every other country has some variation on. But if we go back to that concept of the importance of baptism, what that means is something that our Pope Leo has made very clear. When we confront issues like this, we're Catholic, we're not political. And that hopefully our responses to these things, and this isn't the only one, are guided by the morals of our faith, not by the morals or lack thereof that sometimes can be very prominent in our political system. So it's not pretty. And to be perfectly honest, for a period of time, if anything, it's just going to get worse. I understand there will be 1,000 more ICE agents coming to Minnesota in the coming days. So we got to step back and I think ask ourselves some tough questions and to consider some really, really difficult realities. Regardless of what we may as individuals feel about some of these issues, I think we can safely say that the rhetoric and the actions around it have become cruel and they have become dangerous. Just ask the 30-something-year-old woman in Minneapolis this past week who was killed. Now, of course, we can debate, should she have been there, what her role was, or indeed, was she harming other people? But I really find it a bit of a conceptual leap to consider that a Caucasian woman, stay-at-home mom, whose real passion is to write poetry, really falls under the category of domestic terrorist. But that's what we're dealing with. And few more little things we can throw into the mix. I happened to see a little video clip last night shot here in Burnsville. And I watched in that video clip as a young man, a very young man, was being put inside of one of the ICE vehicles. I realized that around a year ago, I blessed that young man on his birthday when he turned 14. And then, interestingly today, when I came out of the rectory and was coming over here to church, there was a car parked out in front of the rectory. It had Texas plates. And as I looked a little more closely, the two men in the car were wearing masks. They followed me here to the parish. Am I a domestic terrorist now because I minister to Latinos? Who knows? Maybe there's more going on at that rectory than you're aware of. I confess, yes, there are possible criminal activities. I have more houseplants than any one human being should be allowed to have. But otherwise, when you step back and look at my world, I think what you safely will see is someone that you would look at his life and go, wow, that is boring. Think about what this all means. Is it what we want? And even more importantly, is it what God calls us to? I was not in Minneapolis when that shooting took place. I can't attest to what did or did not happen, even though we can see it all on video. We can't know the minds and the heart of people. But it is strange how, in many ways, we're in a period that is very evocative of what happened a few years back. Remember when we had the COVID shutdown? Raise your hand. Remember how squirrely we all got when we were locked together in our homes with our loved ones? And we had to adapt very suddenly to things that we didn't know how to do, and also to confront a reality that was really, really, in the very beginning, also terrifying. But viruses are not sentient beings. They don't choose to do what they do. They just kind of do it. They replicate. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. What's causing the isolation and the fear now is something that is of human making. And also, interestingly enough, in that same window of time, there was another little event that happened. How many of you remember George Floyd? And think of what happened after that. We're not so far away from that situation, are we? And no, it is not ours to judge whether that person, whether this woman was murdered, or what indeed is the moral fate of the person who pulled the trigger. That's not our job. And indeed, if it does come from a place of malice, shame on those who have made that happen. Shame on them. But here's the other part. If we allow these sort of things to continue, if we do not raise our voices, if we do not use what we have as our tools to stand up and be counted, and also to make clear what is of God and what is not of God, then, my friends, shame on us. Thank you. And before we offer our prayers of the faithful, I do want to show a brief video clip that was produced by our United States bishops that kind of helps to flesh out this. Plus also, I will note, there is a copy of a letter in both English and in Spanish, written even more recently from our Archbishop and our local bishops as well, giving us feedback and ideas on how to respond to this situation.
United States are bound to our people by ties of communion and compassion in our Lord Jesus Christ. And we are disturbed when we see among our people a climate of fear and anxiety around questions of profiling and immigration enforcement.
We are saddened by the state of contemporary debate and the vilification of immigrants. We are concerned about the conditions in detention centers and the lack of access to pastoral care.
We lament that some immigrants in the United States have arbitrarily lost their legal status. We are troubled by threats against the sanctity of houses of worship and the special nature of hospitals and schools.
We are grieved when we meet parents who fear being detained when taking their children to school, or when we try to console family members who have already been separated from their loved ones.
Despite obstacles and prejudices, generations of immigrants have made enormous contributions to the well-being of our nation. We as Catholic bishops love our country and pray for its peace and prosperity.
For this very reason, we feel compelled now in this environment to raise our voices in defense of God-given human dignity.